I love A24. I think A24 is the biggest gift to the world of cinema and in some ways to the world of art in general that we have right now. It is one of the few places in all of modern cinema where you will see some boundary pushing, where you will see some lack of convention, where you will see objections to the common narrative that the general audience demands out of a movie. And maybe it's not like the only place that's doing that by a long shot. I mean, the whole world of indie film, I'm sure, has all kinds of different, just idiosyncratic, twisty, sometimes outright middle finger kind of art that is just there to defy expectations. But A24 it happens to be the one that has the biggest distribution and still gets its movies into theaters, which I think is so cool. I think it's so cool. They put so many movies into theaters, I think sometimes knowing darn well that they're not going to make their money back. But they're just like, but this just needs to be seen. I love A24 so much. And so much what I love about it, like I've kind of already said, is just the strange narratives. The narratives that make it so hard to predict what's going to end up happening. I don't think I've ever seen a film released by A24, and granted, I haven't seen every movie that they've ever made or distributed. I've never seen a movie where I watched like the first 10 minutes and then could tell you everything that was going to happen. I've seen a lot of movies where I could do just that. Even if I didn't get it perfectly, I could get it in like the 80 to 90%, like knowing exactly scene by scene what's going to happen. And that's not always the worst thing. I think sometimes you can take conventions and make something awesome out of them. I think Top Gun Maverick is a movie that didn't exactly have a ton of surprises for me, but hey, I don't always need a ton of surprises. You just have to use those basic conventions well. And that's another important thing to remember. Just because something's unconventional doesn't necessarily mean that it's great. But I just always appreciate the risk that you take with breaking conventions. I just always appreciate their movies, even if I didn't necessarily enjoy them. Even if I still have some critiques of like, okay, that was a very risky move that you took there, and it didn't quite work for me. But I still appreciate that you tried it. There are a couple movies I can think of, like Waves, has a really interesting narrative shift that doesn't totally satisfy me. They have a horror movie called In Fabric, which I honestly still love that movie, but I remember watching it and being a little upset with the way that the narrative switches. I'm trying to think of some other ones. My point is this, that it doesn't always work for me, at least not outright. And it does make me question, okay, is that a problem with my own expectations? Or, is that a problem with the movie itself? A lot of the time, what A24 teaches me is that you can throw your expectations out the window, buddy. You can be completely out on your own in this journey of film viewing. And you are going to be left to come up with your own opinion on it, your own interpretation of it. And I just think that's amazing. And it's a huge inspiration to me, even in this small, amateurish format, that I just want to make sure that I'm not totally trying to slip into a format. I get comfortable for a while following a format, and then I realize that it's kind of going dry for me, and I just need some kind of switch. And I don't think that I'll ever really be able to categorize myself super easily. And I think it's going to be very, very hard for me to find a whole lot of mainstream appeal with this or any other art that I make. But it's out of the same principle. It's out of the same aspiration that I just want to try things differently. Sometimes I want to break conventions just for the sake of breaking conventions, just for the sake of testing my own patience listening to myself. Sometimes I watch or listen to things that I did in the past that I know I specifically went into with the intent of just not being conventional, and I can't stand some of them. But some of them that work really well are the ones that I'm most proud of. So just thank you, A24. Whenever I see your logo pop up on anything in a trailer, it gets me really, really excited. And I look forward to watching your movies and being angry at some of your movies and just being enraptured by a whole lot of them also.